Surprise! Don't lie, I gotcha. Well, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Tyler. I run this channel called TRF, or Tyler's Real Fishing for long. We have a boat here. This is my 2019 Skeeter FX20, and I wanted to make a series of little 2 videos here about my storage in the boat for a while now, but have kind of had sidetracked goals and such, and kind of put them off to the side. And so, today is finally the day that I go over the storage, everything that is in every compartment of my Skeeter FX20, followed by exactly how I organize my tackle in my storage compartments and in my tackle boxes. So, we have a little bit of organizing to do before we get started. So let's roll a time lapse. Well, it is hot and organizing's done, so let's hop down real quick and take a gander. So like I mentioned, this is my 2019 Skeeter FX20. I've been working with Skeeter now for 1 year. Love working with the company, incredible people, and of course, in my opinion, the best made bass boat in the world. And so I get questions on Instagram and Facebook and such about how I organize all the gear in my boat, whether it comes to my filming setup, whether it comes to tournament fishing or just filming regular videos, how I store everything in my boat that I might need for a day out on the water. And so we're gonna start here on the back of the boat. There's basically, I mean, there are 5 compartments here on the back deck of the boat. Really only 3, or really only 2 that can be used for storage. And let me set up the camera at a better angle here. Actually, I'm just gonna vlog it. So the 2 back compartments that we have for storage on the back deck here are the one behind the passenger seat and the one behind the driver's seat, both the same size and the same shape. And so let's set up the camera here for the driver's compartment. All right, got it right there. I'm gonna lay down so you guys can see me. A little bit uncomfortable filming angle, but that's all right. So this is the driver's side compartment. What I keep in here and what I keep in the back of the boat is as much of the weight as I can. So I know there's a big divide within the fishing industry on whether to get better high speed in your boat and to get, on plane faster, what kind of weight you should have in the front versus in the back. And so I think really doesn't matter. Bass boats nowadays are built to handle a lot of different weight conditions, a lot of like heavier sized people. And so I don't think it really matters as long as you don't have all the heavy stuff up front. So in the back here, I keep tools and basically soft plastics in the back. And so this one here, I have my toolbox. This here is in a loose waterproof bag. I do have it zipped up during tournaments, so if it's ever raining, it doesn't get any sort of water in it when I open up the compartment. And this one here has my, of course, the main box in it is my bass fishing toolbox. This here contains all the necessary tools, zip ties, just utensils that you might need on the water to deal with your bass boat, to deal with your trailer, to deal with your electronics, of course, to fix a fuse, all that kind of stuff. So I actually made a video on everything you need as a bass boat owner inside of your boat to, of course, if anything goes wrong. So I will link that up here in one of these corners. But I have this toolbox right here. Then I have a first aid kit, which I think is required by law to have a first aid kit. It might not be, but I mean, you should have one anyways. So I've got everything in here from Band-Aids to Neosporin, hand sanitizer, some wrap, some braided line. This here is actually very important because in case you are fishing and you don't have any sort of braided line with you and you have to do the braid trick to get a treble hook or a regular hook out of somebody's hand or arm, having braided line is very important. So just some little nuances there to my first aid kit. Also in this bag here, I have I don't know if I call it a wrench or a holder or something, but to get the prop off of your boat back there, maybe a prop nut holder. And then, which I haven't had to use yet, but I have it anyways. And then this one, which I do have to use every once in a while, is jumper cables. Now, on a 2019 boat, I shouldn't have to use jumper cables that often, which I haven't had to yet, but I have had to jump other people. And so, if you want to be the good guy on the lake and help people out, which in my opinion everybody should be, have a pair of jumper cables in your boat, because not only will you help yourself out in a situation where you run out of power, you can also help your fellow anglers out. And trust me, that looks good. That looks good for you. So there's my toolbox in there, and then probably tip it down here. The rest of the stuff that I have in this is kind of a smorgasbord. So I have some extra TH Marine G juice. I've got a loose fillet knife. I've got 2 packs of batteries, AA and AAA. I think I have my Ultrex controller to control where the Ultrex can go. I've got some Ziploc bags. I've got all my Skeeter paperwork that I need, and then I've got an extra Connect scale in here as well. So sunscreen, my tournament weigh-in bag, and I believe I have a fanny pack. Yeah, I have a fanny pack Onyx life jacket. So I've really got a whole lot of stuff in this one, but like I said, the majority of the weight that I keep in the back of the boat is gonna come from this bag right here. That's like a, I don't know, 20-pound bag or something. One compartment done. We have some very important stuff, and that is soft plastics. Now here is where I basically keep all of my soft plastics that I'm not using on tournament day or on the day that I'm fishing. So I will try to keep all of my soft plastics back here until, of course, I find out what the fish are biting on. So if they're biting on, I don't know, a stick worm, or if they're biting on a creature bait, I will bring some of those to the front of the boat and keep them in what I call the day box. I'll explain that here in a second. But I do keep soft plastics in 2 big Tupperware boxes. I prefer to keep the soft plastics in the original bags they came in. These bags are designed to hold the baits, designed to hold the baits in the right size, and of course, a lot of these are slimy and smell bad, and so the bags are designed for that kind of stuff. And so my boxes really change like throughout the year. So these 2 boxes here are not always going to be the same. Occasionally I'll add a 3rd box if I'm throwing a lot of soft plastics, but most of the time it kind of falls into 2 categories. I have worms and I have craws and creature baits. And so in this worm box right here, I have everything from trick worms to, you know, big worms, and then I've got stuff down here that is, I kind of categorize under worms, and that is the Ned rig. But if you guys want to see exactly what I have in all my tackle, you guys are going to have to stay tuned. I think in the next 3 or 4 days, I'm dropping the 2nd video on how I organize my tackle. So that was just a little bit of a teaser. You're not getting the whole thing yet, you goons. The rest of the back of the boat here, of course, has the live wells, which they don't really store anything besides, well, of course, they store giant megabass. So the middle of the boat doesn't have much. It has a cooler. Ooh, cooler. Nothing to see there. It is a good cooler, but don't really need to explain what that holds, because you guys know it holds waters, sandwiches that my mother so nicely prepares for me. It is starting to get hot, folks. Welcome to Texas, where it's hot. So kind of to continue with the middle of the boat, I have one more compartment here, and that is the glove box. Now this glove box here just kind of lifts up like that, and I throw everything in here that is extraneous. So not having to do with fishing specifically goes in the glove box. So your keys, your wallet, sunscreen, hummingbird chips, or Lake Master chips from our hummingbird graphs, all that kind of stuff, and extra little clothes pieces, sunglass cleaner, all that kind of stuff goes in here. So I'll open it up. I have some AFCO gloves, probably. Yeah, that needs to be washed. I'm not even gonna smell that because that definitely needs to be washed. That's gloves and a buff. Then we've got these AFCO gloves. Those smell fine. We're gonna keep those in there. Like cold weather gloves that I might need for the fall and winter time coming up here. What else do we got? We have some ibuprofen. We've got some sunscreen. Charging cable, very important for my GoPro. We've got a few pairs of sunglasses because not only do I forget my sunglasses in the car and then I take off down the lake and I'm 20 minutes away from the ramp and I realize I forgot my sunglasses in the car. So always got a few extra pairs. Like I said, I've got my, got my wave away to clean my graphs and to clean my sunglasses. I've got 1 or 2 pairs of extra scissors. I lied, 3 pairs of extra scissors. Lake Master chips for my hummingbird graphs. Then I've got 2 flashlights because 1 is always going to go out, so always better to have 2. And then I think I have, there we go, I've got insurance. And especially the insurance, because you don't want to get to a tournament and realize, oh, I left my insurance in the house or in the car. Like, I don't find any reason to not keep the insurance in the boat. There's not really, to my knowledge, anything that somebody could steal from stealing your insurance, and I've never had mine stolen, so go for it, hackers. That is the glove box. Definitely one of my favorite little parts about the Skeeter. A little bit of a sneak peek. I may actually take out the glove box next year and put an 8 or 10 inch subwoofer right here. So we'll see. I'm not sure about that yet. But yeah, let's move to the front of the boat. Now up front here on the front deck, as basically all bass boats have, you have storage covering almost every single section of the front deck. So what Skeeter calls the day box is here to my left, and that is what I store, as the name implies, everything that I'll use that day. It is a day box, and so in here, I always keep my Connect scale. I'm always weighing fish. I'm always doing my 5-fish limit type stuff, and so Connect scale is very important to have in here. And then I keep the lures that I have in here, as I mentioned earlier, for the stuff that's working that day. So in here, I always have some 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon for a spinning rod leader, because I'm always using that. Almost always have a package of Strike King Ochos in here because they always catch fish anywhere you go. So I have that in here. I usually keep a pair of scissors or two because I do keep them down there in a little, scissors and plier storage area, but occasionally I have too many things out, too many things sticking in there. So I've got an extra pack of scissors in here. And when I clip my baits off, I just prefer not to throw them in a cup holder or throw them on the floor. I know a lot of pro anglers that I fished with, they litter their bass boat with lures that have hooks on them. They lure it with crankbaits, with spinnerbaits and jigs and Texas rigs. I prefer, unless they're wet. Now, if the bait itself is wet, I prefer, of course, to throw it in a cup holder or anywhere on the bottom of the boat because the boat's wet. But if the lure is dry and it's not gonna, stink or anything, it doesn't have any sort of, chartreuse or orange dip to it, I will throw it in here. So I've got a shaky head in here, I've got an extra jig in here, and that's just stuff that I cut off and threw in here because I did not want to step on it or have any of my buddies step on it. So just out of, common courtesy, I don't like to litter my bass boat with, extra lures sitting there on the bottom. I like to put them in the day box. So we've made it all the way to the front deck here. Of course, the part that everybody enjoys and probably you guys wanted to know most about. And so we're gonna start here with this rod locker on this side of me right here. So let's see if I can, this is of course the starboard side of the boat right in front of the driver's seat. And in here I keep a lot of my functional safety equipment. And so what I mean by that is I have my two, oftentimes 3 life jackets in the boat because this life jacket here isn't auto-inflatable. I prefer to wear this when I'm fishing and running the boat, but this one does not actually count as a PFD by the Coast Guard if it is not on your person. So if I ever decide to go fishing and take this thing off or take a run without using a life jacket, I will not be legal if I only have one other life jacket in the boat, and so I make sure I always have 2 life jackets in the boat at all times. Occasionally I'll bring a third one and I'll stick it back there with my soft plastic bins in that little section between the compartments, just in case I have an extra person that wants to go fishing with me. And if that's the case and I did forget a life jacket, I will keep my life jacket on all day. That way we are legal. Let's see what else I have. I have my 2 bike seats, what Skeeter calls them. These are just the fishing seats that you can use if it's wavy or windy or whatever. I prefer not to use a seat. Back on the old days of my channel, I would use a seat every day, and that was mainly because I didn't know it was an option not to use one. I just kind of thought that's what fishermen did, is had the seat on the front deck, and as soon as I stopped using that, I realized how much more mobility I had on the front deck and how much less lazy I was. Even though I had a tiny, uncomfortable seat like these, bike seats are, I was still getting lazy and would sit on it and not fish as hard. So the harder I fished so I fished a lot harder when I got rid of these seats. But if you're fishing on Toledo Bend or Mille Lacs, trying to fish offshore, and you didn't get great sleep or you're dehydrated, it's best to have these seats as a form of stability. In here I've got a rope, a tow rope. It's a very short tow rope. It's more used to tie yourself up to the dock. I've got my throw cushion. Fire extinguisher is right here. What else do we got? I've got my YOLO Tech power stick for, I use this one for lighting for when I'm rigging tackle. I have the light set up on there. And then I have, of course, my monopod that I use to rig my camera setup here on the console. I've been asked by way too many people on how I film my videos, exactly what my filming setup is. I have one more piece of equipment to buy until I can tell you guys exactly what my filming setup is. It's a cool thing that my buddy Sam Sobey showed me up in Minnesota, and I'll be buying that very soon, and that will complete my filming arsenal in terms of tools. Now, of course, always going to be upgrading cameras, but that will film my arsenal of tools. So I'm going to put these seats back in and move to the rod locker. Now, I feel like this one does not need a whole lot of explanation, but this here is my rod locker. Now, every single Skeeter boat does come with the opportunity to put your rods in either this compartment, or it has 6 slots in the middle compartment as well. But I don't really fish with that many rods in the boat. Now, you may look at this and say, that's a whole lot of rods. Of course, it is a lot of rods, and I'm very blessed to be partnered with a company like Loose that I can afford to have a lot of rods. But you don't need this many. I just put them all in one side because that's all that I need out on the water. And the way that I organize this rod locker here, I'll probably touch on it a little bit more in my video about tackle storage, but if you look at the shape of the boat, you probably can't see it well from this angle here, but if you look at the shape of the boat here, you guys probably can't see it from that angle. It basically slopes up on the left side, and so the rod locker areas on the left side closer to the port are going to have less space. So my longer rods, my 7/6 and above, have to go on the right side of the rod locker, and my shorter ones have to go on the left. And then one more thing, I'll try I'll try to vlog this, not sure how well you guys can see it, but the rod locker here has the same size holes in the top and bigger holes on the bottom. And so on the top, I can fit max of 2, occasionally 3 bait casting rods, of course, with rod socks. I never put, well, there we go. I never put rods in the rod locker without rod socks because it protects them from getting damaged from the line catching on each other, all that jazz. And so I have rod socks on all these rods. This is the Slicks rod series. And then the spinning rods, I'll take this out here. Because spinning rod guides are bigger, of course, the spinning rod socks are bigger. And so I have to put these in the bottom holes, which are bigger holes. So they can fit a maximum of 3 spinning rods per each hole and a maximum of 5 or 6 bait casters. So I have 6 spinning rods in my boat right now, and so I put them in the bottom slots, slide them in, and then the bait casters, of course, of the long variety closest toward the middle, the short variety closest to the port. So that is how I organize my rods in here. Really no sense of organization when it comes to, you know, what type of bait is tied on or what type of rod and reel. It's all about length. So if I know that I'm fishing tomorrow with, I don't know, top water and a Texas rig, I'll most likely put those rods, even if they're shorter rods, so a 6'10" or 7 foot, I'll still put those on the top instead of on the bottom. That way it's easier for me in tournament morning to get the rods out of the box without as much hassle. So that right there is the rod box. Whew, one more compartment and we are done. This here is the middle compartment, of course, the most important one to my fishing success. This thing contains all of my tackle, except for, of course, the soft plastics in the back and the stuff that I use in the day box per that day. But we opened it up here and you can see we have plenty of room to store tackle. We've got tons of, I think these are Flambeau, I've got Flambeau, I've got Plano, I've got all sorts of brands. If you're a tackle box brand, hit me up, I'd love to be sponsored. But the cool thing about the brand new Skeeters is that they come with a whole bunch of tackle boxes in the boat. So I think I came with like 10 free tackle boxes, and I used up as many as I could. And so I have in here, you know, all of my regular size boxes that slide into these little sliders that Skeeter has built in. A lot of the old Skeeters did not have any sort of slider system, so it's awesome that the new boats, of course, have a organization system. I've got my big swimmate box, I've got hook boxes, I've got all the stuff that I work on a video daily basis up here in the front. But of course, to see this next video, you're gonna have to subscribe to this channel and turn those post notifications on. And of course, big thanks to Skeeter Boats for taking me on as their resident YouTuber and resident videographer. It's cool to be a part of such a big company and to be able to fish out of a boat like this every day. I am incredibly blessed. I do not take this for granted. And no, my dad didn't pay for this boat. This is my boat. I paid for it with my own money, my own hard-worked money that I've built on this brand for the past 7 years. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you guys are not part of this channel, subscribe and stay tuned for the next few days. We're gonna have a video on exactly how I organize my tackle. We're gonna open up every single tackle box and show you guys what I have in there at this time of the year. And we'll see you all in the next episode of TRF.